Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Produce Buzzers podcast. We are so happy you have joined us today, and I think you will be too after the show is over, because you will learn a lot about fresh fruits and vegetables, how to select and store them, how to prepare and cook them, and surprising facts about their history and origin. We hope it inspires you to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, not only for your health, but also for your delight and pleasure as you explore their amazing world of taste and delicious flavors. Eating more of them will transform your life in so many positive ways. So settle back, relax, and get ready for another delicious adventure with the Produce Buzzers. Greetings and welcome to another delicious episode of the Produce Buzzers podcast. I'm Edwin Stepp, your host and executive editor of ProduceBuzz.com. I'm joined once again by Teresa Nolan, the founder and president of Produce Buzz, along with Rick Stepp and Cynthia Benedetta, both contributing editors to Produce Buzz. Now, Produce Buzzers podcast fans, we have a great guest today, a very interesting one. It's all going to be all about avocados, but not just any avocados. You know, avocados are no longer just a trend, they're a lifestyle. And while many consumers think first of Mexico or California, there's a country that's quietly and powerfully carving out its place in the avocado world. That is Colombia. Today on the Produce Buzzers podcast, we're excited to welcome Michel of Avocados from Colombia, an organization dedicated to telling the story behind Colombia's fast-growing avocado industry, from year-round growing regions and ideal climates to sustainability, quality, and expanding global demand. Colombia is becoming an increasingly important player in keeping avocados on shelves and on your plates. Manuel is here to help us understand why Colombian avocados matter, how they complement existing supplies, and what retailers and consumers should know about this exciting origin. So whether you're slicing, smashing, or spreading, get ready to learn more about one of the most dynamic avocado origins in the world. Manuel, welcome to the Produce Buzzers podcast.
Thank you, Edwin. It's my pleasure to join you here on the Produce Buzz podcast. Really appreciate the invitation. Look forward to sharing a little bit more about what we're doing with the avocados from Colombia.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. I should have said, actually, welcome back to the show, Manuel, because you've been on before. When you were heading up the National Mango Board, you were at the forefront of tremendous growth and in the consumption and awareness of mangoes in the U.S. So I understand why the Colombian avocado growers would want you to take up their cause. Congrats on that new position. So, but let's start with you, Manuel. Your background in the produce business or farming or whatever. Tell us a little bit about that, and then transition to your role with Avocados from Colombia, how you got involved with them.
So I joined the Colombia Avocado Board about 2.5 years ago, Edwin. I'm currently the managing director, and we are the federal marketing and promotion board that focuses on avocados from Colombia. I work with the board of directors to do promotions, marketing. I'm also collecting data that we can share with the industry and taking on different industry initiatives to improve quality and to increase demand for Colombian avocados here in the U.S. market.
Yeah.
It's been a great 2.5 years. It's gone by really fast. My career has been focused on commodity boards. So I've spent about 15 years working with commodity boards. I spent the first 3.5 years working with the USDA's Agriculture Marketing Service, working with marketing orders in the Pacific Northwest. And then after that, I joined the National Mango Board and was with them as executive director for about 9 years.
Yeah.
And then about 2.5 years ago, I joined Colombia Avocado Board.
Right. For our listeners, a lot of them are in the produce industry, so they know when you talk about a commodity board, but a lot of our listeners are consumers, and they may not quite understand what a commodity board is. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yes. So commodity boards are organizations that are working together within the industry. So each industry decides whether or not they want to have a commodity board. Many of them go through referendums every 5 years to determine whether those programs continue. and then the industries self-assess themselves. So they collect funds, and then they use those funds to do marketing and promotion. Some also do research and industry relations. So each board is a little bit different, but all of this works through the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The Agriculture Marketing Service is the government agency that oversees these programs. And so there are many programs throughout the US. Some of them are national, some of them are more regional, but they're very common. It's part of US ag policy to provide support to these produce industry um, programs. And then they've existed for many years now throughout the
Yeah.
US.
Well,
So they're
that's
very
what we
common.
used. Yeah, we used to do a lot of work with those boards. I think we've told you that, and our listeners, I've probably heard enough about it, too much. But that was when Teresa founded a marketing and merchandising company several decades ago, and Rick and I both worked for her, and Cynthia came on board. And we did a lot of work with avocados for the California Avocado Commission. We won't talk about them today, but we did. We were very aware of marketing and merchandising of avocados. So I'm eager to hear about how Colombia is doing and how you're moving along. So Colombia has become a topic in the avocado conversation, big time. What makes that country such a strong place to grow avocados?
Well, there are many things going on down in Colombia. It's the newest program here in the US. As you mentioned, there are several avocado programs. You have California, Mexico, Peru, Chile, now
Yeah.
Colombia. And we developed a board for Colombia about 5 years ago, but it wasn't until about 2 or 3 years ago when we started to have more volumes arrive here in the US.
Yeah.
And so we've been involved in helping promote the fruit. Some of the main things that attracts buyers to avocados from Colombia is the unique climate and geography that Colombia has.
Yeah.
So Colombia is located along the equator. That means that the climate stays relatively the same throughout the year, but you have different elevations throughout the country because the Andes Mountains run through the middle of
Okay.
the country. And
Right.
so all this allows for year-round production of avocados. So that's one benefit that buyers like to see.
Yeah.
Also, because of the location, transportation becomes favorable. It's actually closer from Cartagena, where the most of the shipments from Colombia head out to either US or Europe. It's
Okay.
closer to Philadelphia than it is from Southern California or Michoacan, Mexico, to get
Oh,
up to
okay.
Philadelphia. So
And for
Colombia
our
has that transportation advantage as well.
right, for our listeners who may not know, Philadelphia is maybe the largest hub on the East Coast for produce, isn't it? Coming
It
in
is, yeah, it's a
from
huge
imported
port.
produce. I mean, yeah. So
Correct.
you got so I don't know how it ranks with other ports as far as produce, but it might be the biggest in the U.S. Do you know that stat or?
I don't know, but I know it's a significant one. For Colombia avocados, about two-thirds of our avocados enter through Port of Philadelphia. So
Yeah.
it's important for us.
Okay. Well, very good. So what is year round? You can grow them year round. And you give us a little bit more specificity of the geography of what we're talking about. You must have mountainous regions, but you must also have lower level regions. What is kind of the seasonality of that?
So with avocados in Colombia, you do have the different elevations. And with the fruit itself, the Hass avocado, usually it can flower twice during the year. And once
Oh,
the trees flower, it takes approximately 10 to 12 months for the fruit to develop and be harvested.
oh
In
wow,
Colombia, you can get those trees to flower twice during the year. So usually those flowerings happen during the summer and then the winter months. And
interesting.
about 10, 12 months later, the fruits are harvested. So that's a
Yeah.
bit different from other areas. Down in other areas like Peru, Chile, even in California, the trees only flower once a year,
Okay.
or they only harvest about once a year. So
That's
in
interesting.
Colombia, you've got those flowerings taking place throughout the year. And then depending on the different elevations, the trees will flower at different times during the year as well. So when
Okay.
you take the whole country as a whole, that's how you're able to be able to harvest fruit throughout the year.
Right. There's no dormant season for an avocado tree, then, at least in Colombia.
Yeah.
And that's
And then
interesting. Just a quick question about that. So there must be times when the tree has fruit and flowers at the same time, or am I misunderstanding?
All the time. Usually,
Interesting.
you have when you look at a tree, it'll have different stages, and you'll have some fruits on the tree that are ready to harvest, others that are small, and then you have flowers taking place also at the same time.
Right, right. And as I understand it, avocados do not ripen until they're picked. Is that correct? And if that's
Yes.
true,
So,
how long can they stay on the tree before you have to get them off?
a lot of it depends on the climate, how warm it is.
Hmm.
Um, so what happens with the fruit itself is that it reaches a maturity point, and in the avocado industry, you measure the dry matter. And once it gets to a level where the fruit can mature and ripen, once it's harvested, then it's ready to be harvested. But that dry matter level can range. In Colombia, we have a minimum of 23%. So the farmers, they don't harvest until it reaches 23%. And they have a window of 23% all the way up to 27, perhaps 30%, just depending on the time of year and how the weather is acting. There are other parts of the world where they allow that dry matter to go even higher. So once the fruit is ready to be harvested, it can still be on the tree for several weeks, even a couple of months. And so it gives us an advantage compared to other fruits where in some fruits, once the fruit is ready, you have to harvest.
Yeah,
You don't have any choices. And that was the
right.
case with mango. But with avocados, it gives you a window of when you can harvest or leave it there a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So then the people who are harvesting the trees have to be very selective on what they are plucking off the
Correct.
tree that day.
Yes, yeah. The harvesting crews, they need to know what fruit they're looking for and be able to separate the fruit that's still immature, that's still developing, versus the fruit that's ready to be harvested.
And that must be difficult. There's got to be outward signs because you can't test every avocado for dry matter, right? So, what are are there visual signs? Can they feel the weight of them? How do they determine that? Do you know?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Like you mentioned, you
Yeah,
can feel the weight, the color of the fruit itself also. They say that if it's shiny, it's not quite ready. There's a
yeah.
certain dullness to the fruit when you can tell it's ready to be harvested. The shape of it as well. It's just a bunch of different factors that they look at the fruit and they're able to tell whether or not it's ready to be harvested. But before you even get to the field, though, many times you have crews that come through and measure the dry matter. They do take samples and they know approximately what the average dry matter is in an orchard. And then once it's ready, then crews go in and harvest the fruits.
Yeah, but a lot of fruits, like I had some fruit trees in my home in California, and I know like I had a peach tree, and they didn't all get ripe at the same time, fortunately. I mean, they were pretty much within the same, they were fairly, but they could be within the 2 weeks. I could have various ripeness. So those harvesters have to know a little bit more, right? I mean, you can't just say, okay, this is an average, or do you say there's a certain average of dry matter now in this orchard or this grove or this row, and you just pick them everything, or do the harvesters have to be able to say, no, this one we should leave it on a little longer?
So all that is evolving, Edwin.
Yeah.
It's a great question because in Colombia, in prior seasons, they would identify the orchard and say it's time to harvest, and then they would go through and select most of the fruit. Now
Yeah.
they've noticed that it's better to go through two or even three times if needed.
Okay.
And so the harvesters, they're getting very specialized at knowing exactly what fruit is ready to be harvested.
Right.
So you try to maintain a minimum. That's why you have people go in before the crews show up to make
Got
sure
it.
that there's a minimum dry matter. And once that gets approved, then it's easier to stay within that window of dry matter that you're looking for.
Yeah.
But you have to be careful because yeah, there is a range. Just because you say we're targeting X amount of dry matter, there is a range within the orchard. So you have to be very careful, and you have to have crews that are very specialized and know what
Right.
they're doing.
This is fascinating because I don't think we've ever delved into this as much as we've been with that. But Cynthia probably knows a lot of this because she was her primary job with us was to help the retailers ripen them properly. and getting starting to ripen them and put them in ripening rooms. She got that started on the East Coast, and her work, I'll just give her a little pat on the back here. The work she did for us in the 90s and when we were doing it on the East Coast, most of these retailers were not ripening them at all. And she came from Dole, where she uh, was very familiar with banana ripening, and she got them to start using their banana rooms. And then that just grew, and it grew quite significantly. When we first started working, Stop and Shop, I'm sure you're familiar with Stop and Shop in the Northeast,
It's
they were taking like 2 pallets a week for all their stores. By the time we finished, it was truckloads a week. So she did a lot to lay some groundwork with you. I'll edit all this out, by the way, because we don't want to talk about us. But I raised that because I've learned some things new about avocados that I didn't know. I'm sure Cynthia knew this, but it was uh, this has been interesting.
Now I think it makes more sense. So the information that I knew before, I didn't know why. So when I was being taught, like I can identify an off bloom and they're scarred, but I was told like those are the ones you want to get because they've been on the tree, probably 6 months longer. And so I didn't until you were saying like they went through different dry matter way. It didn't. It then all of a sudden like, oh, I get it now because I was thinking like, oh, it was uh on the tree longer, but then if you went to different elevations, so I'm thinking like you just went from like grove to harvest, like in citrus, but that's not accurate.
that's the way it was being handled previously. And so we're going through that transition. Um, Sending the crews in a couple of times at least for each orchard, that's been happening in the last year. And we've had to make a lot of adjustments. So because of the climate in Colombia, it's very unique. It's different from any of the other countries that produce avocados commercially. And so we've learned that there are additional steps that need to be taken to maintain the high quality. And
Yeah,
just to add another layer of complexity to all this,
please do.
so what we really are looking for is the oil content of the
Yeah, that
avocado.
was my
And the
next
dry
question.
matter it's a correlation. The
Hmm.
higher the dry matter that converts itself into oil content. And Colombia, since it's a new country, it's been following the standards of other countries, Mexico and California. But we're noticing that we need to do our own studies, which are already happening, to figure out exactly what that correlation is between oil content and dry matter. So it may turn out that not every region or every elevation fits that 23% dry matter.
Right.
It may go lower, it may go higher, and still end up with a great tasting avocado.
And
So it's
doesn't
been quite a learning curve for us.
so
Yeah.
are your trees did like how long has been growing down there? How old are the is the industry?
So the Hass avocado was introduced down in Colombia about 20, 25 years ago.
That
And it
makes sense.
wasn't until about 10 years ago where they started to produce commercially. So a lot of the orchards are barely starting to come into production. Many of the orchards are about 5 or 6 years old. And so it's still a very young industry in Colombia.
Yeah.
But it's been growing. There's a lot of areas that are being produced. The production area started off in the department or the state of Antioquia, which is where the city of Medellin is located. It's upper north central part of Colombia. And then from there, it spread down into the coffee growing regions. So you have the departments of Caldas, Risaralda, Quindío, and then now it spreads all the way down to the city of Cali. So the Valley of Cauca, you've got some production down there. There are about 9 different departments or states that are certified to export to the US now.
Hmm.
And
Interesting.
so the trees are now starting to mature and to give you the amount of crop that you're hoping for or and but I wonder if you'll find that grove number 1 is produces a much better piece of fruit and you have to maybe push grove number 10, like push it like a rope, like maybe that's not like the best use of it. And I wonder if there'll be like intricacies like that and this like you and I are nodding our heads, but like Edwin's like eyes are glassing over. So this will be like, yeah, nobody cares about this, but like I find it fascinating.
There are many microclimates, and then the elevations also play a big part. So in Colombia, many of the orchards range from about 1,500 meters up to 2,700 meters, which in feet
Wow,
is about 5,000 up to 9,000 feet.
that's
So that's
high.
a huge range from 5 to 9,000 feet.
Right.
And each one is a microclimate. So, yes, each orchard needs to be managed very differently, which is unique compared to other countries because the elevation is about the same. So that means that the fruit is usually ready to be harvested around the same time. It's more consistent. There's a lot of work that goes into producing avocados in Colombia, but
Yeah, but
thankfully we have an industry that's very passionate about it. People who are out there constantly and taking care of the trees. And that's why we created our campaign that's called Raised by Colombia. Because in Colombia, more than just growing avocados, you have to raise them, you have to nurture the orchards and the
nice.
trees to get a perfect fruit.
That's good. Yeah.
I would imagine like what is so labor intensive and so expensive, but then once you guys hit your groove, then you'll just continue recycling, like going back around, and then maybe the expense and the aggravation will level out. Because it just sounds like it's just like once you guys figure out the equation, you'll be
Yes.
fine.
No, every season we've made huge strides in learning how to produce avocados, not just how to produce, but also how to handle them, how to maintain that quality throughout the supply chain. But again, there are 2 seasons in Colombia, and each season we make a lot of progress.
The 23% dry matter. What is the 23%? Is that water or
So
23% dry matter?
yeah, the way they measure that, Rick, is that you harvest the fruit and then you slice it and you take all the water out of it. And what's left, the mass, the matter that's left, you want it to be 23%. And the way they
Nice.
take it out, it's through microwaves. They take slices and then they put it into microwave. They measure it to see how much um, water is lost from those samples, and then they can calculate exactly what that dry matter is.
Interesting. Yeah. We joke with Rick about Rick always has a recipe for cooking some kind of vegetable in a microwave. Now, Rick, don't start cooking your avocados in the microwave.
I did try cooking one of the avocado seeds in the microwave once, and it
Why?
didn't do very well.
Were you going to try to eat it cooked, like
Yeah, it
roasted?
just made it burn like wood.
Yeah, he always has some. And Cynthia and I are anti-microwave cooking. So we
Yeah.
give him a hard time when he brings his microwave. But now you can figure out the dry matter of avocados. You can do that, but just don't eat it. Yeah. Well, let's talk about sustainability since I mentioned that in the introduction. It's a big topic in produce. How is the Colombian avocado industry addressing that?
So sustainability is very important for Colombia. It's part of the culture, it's part of the country. Colombia has sustainability laws that go back decades. So
Wow.
they protect their forests. There's no deforestation that's taking place in Colombia. A lot of the farms were dedicated to ranching. So you had many pastures that go back decades, even centuries. And a
Yeah.
lot of those pastures are now being converted into orchards. So there's a lot of that going on. The laws are very strict in terms of them protecting the environment. And they have to because of all the rain, they know that they need to keep the land covered to avoid erosion, to avoid
Yeah.
all sorts of problems. And a lot of the farms are already being certified for many things, including sustainability practices, whether it's fair trade certification or SMETA, those are more social responsibility type certifications. But then you also have Rainforest Alliance, because a lot of the growers export to Europe. So in Europe, many times they they require more certifications. So many of the farms are already certified in terms of sustainability.
Yeah. I imagine replacing a pasture with an avocado orchard. Is it orchard or grove? It's a grove, isn't it?
It can be
This is
both.
English
Yeah,
term.
I think it is. I think it is orchard.
Okay.
'Cause I
All
always
right.
want to call it a grove.
Well,
I
what
don't
is it
know.
in Spanish? What's the Spanish term?
Spanish huerta is what we
Huerto,
refer.
huerto or huerta, depending on
Yes.
the gender of the fruit.
Yes.
Huerto, huerta. Interesting. I've not heard that before. But anyway, I don't speak Spanish, but I want to learn someday. And I understand that I have a television production company, and I used to do documentaries primarily. And I was told by people in the television industry that if you wanted to have your film translated into Spanish, the most neutral accent was the Colombian accent in the Spanish world. Have you ever heard that?
I have. So my heritage is Mexican. My parents
Okay.
are both from Mexico. My
Yeah.
wife is Colombian.
Oh,
So
okay.
so I've learned Spanish differently from when I grew up and learned it from my family. And so being married to my wife now for 18 years now,
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
it's
Congrats.
been
Nice.
I've learned a lot of Spanish in
Yeah.
different ways. And Colombian Spanish is neutral. It's
Yeah.
very neutral.
Right. Anyway, side point, but I thought I knew you were not Colombian. I think I knew you were Mexican, but I did not know your wife was Colombian. So that's great. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, sustainability, that's fantastic and makes sense there with the rainforest protection. And I think I said that converting those pastures to groves, we got off on that term grove or orchard. Uh, that's got to be much better for the overall environment. You got trees instead of grass, and all of that. I don't know if you want to speak to that or not. It just seems an observation. Seems like an observation. Am I correct about that? I don't know. Maybe I'm not.
Yeah, having orchards or groves instead of pastures, there are many benefits. And one of the biggest benefits is the economy that it generates. So having the Hass avocado industry in Colombia has generated a lot of work for local communities. A lot more infrastructure is being developed because of the avocado industry. So
Fantastic.
just all around, it's a much better um, economy based on what existed before. Many areas were subsistence farming in Colombia, and now that you have the Hass avocado industry going in, it's just developing opportunities for the local farmers, for workers, for just the entire country. So people are very thankful for the Hass avocado.
Yeah.
And because of the sustainability that goes into developing not just the farms, but the communities and the economy, it's a great fit for everybody that's
Yeah.
involved.
Well, that's good to hear. That was one of my next questions is, how does the avocado industry contribute to these local communities and rural economies? And I think you answered that pretty thoroughly. Give us a sense of the size of these farms. Are they big farms? Are they small farms? I'm sure it's a combination of things, but
You have different size farms, Edwin, but I was looking at some statistics from Corpojas, which is the Association of Growers and Exporters down in Colombia, and about 49% of the farms are considered small.
okay.
So in Colombia, a small farm is anywhere from 1 to 25, 26 acres.
Oh, wow.
And
That is,
then 32% are medium-sized farms. So those are farms that are about 25 acres up to 125. And then only about 19% of the farms are considered large farms. So that would be
okay.
anything over 125 acres.
Got
So
it.
the majority, about 80% of the farms are small or medium size.
Right. And are these mostly family farms, or how would you
Correct.
characterize them? They're not
Yeah,
corporations, certainly not
I would
corporate.
say mostly all the small and medium sized farms are family owned.
Yeah,
Once you start having large farms that are 125 plus acres, then most of those are corporations. But again, about 80% of the land is small or medium sized farms.
yeah. Okay. You touched on it a bit, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about how, once they're harvested, how do they get to Philadelphia and other parts around the world? Give us a little sense of the challenges in getting them from the orchards, the huertos. Is avocado must be male, masculine, right? Because it's got an O in
Aguacate is male. Yes,
it. So it's a huerto.
it's a huertos.
Gets
Yes,
from the huerto. And what's the plural form of huerto? Sorry for the Spanish.
huertos.
Huertos.
So
Okay.
you add an S at the end. Yes.
So how do they get from the huertos to the ports around the world?
So, as I mentioned, there are about 9 different departments that produce avocados in Colombia, and they have packing facilities usually near those production areas. Sometimes the avocados do travel a couple of hours, and then that's where the avocados are packed, they're handled, and then they're taken from those locations to the ports. And Colombia has ports on both the Pacific side and on the Atlantic side, but most
Mhm.
of the avocados are sent to the Atlantic side. There are
Okay.
2 main cities currently. You have Cartagena and Barranquilla that have the main ports, but there's a third port that's being developed currently. It's called Port of Antioquia, and that's going to make it much faster to ship the avocados from the packing facilities to the ports.
Okay.
Right now, it can take as much as like 24 hours to get the avocados from the packing facilities to the ports. But this new port that's being developed, it's further north, closer to the U.S., and it's only about a 4-hour drive from Medellin. So it's
Okay.
going to shorten the transport much, make it much better than it is currently.
And is that
And
one
then
on
once
is that on the Atlantic or the Pacific side?
it's on the Atlantic
Okay.
as well.
Right.
So then once the avocados get to the ports and they're shipped, it can take as little as 3 days to get to Florida ports. It takes about 5 days to get up to Philadelphia or ports in the Northeast.
Hmm.
Only about 1 or 2% of Colombian avocados are being shipped to the Pacific side of the U.S. down to
Oh,
California.
wow. Yeah, well,
So
that
we're
makes
mostly focused because of the fast transit times. We're staying on the East Coast.
yeah, that makes sense too because there's a lot more volume coming from Mexico and California, I guess, which would but once they taste these Colombian avocados, they're gonna want them in California too. So don't give up there. Uh, Philadelphia is that the biggest shipping point for you at this point? And give us a kind of a ranking of the places you're sending them, we're exporting them to.
Yes, the Port of Philadelphia is definitely our main location where the avocados are received. I would say about 65% or 2/3 of Colombian avocados end up in Port of Philadelphia.
Wow.
And then about 30% go to Florida ports. The Port of Miami or Port Everglades also receives quite a few Colombian avocados. That only leaves about 2, maybe 3% that go to other ports. And so California is only receiving a few
Yeah.
Colombian avocados at this
And
point in time.
Europe?
And so how are you guys selling them? Like are they going to brokers? Are they going some that go straight to retailers, but who's doing the sales?
Colombian avocados come in mostly on the East Coast, and they go to importers on any of the ports along the East Coast. From there, they're shipped out to retailers, to food service, to wholesalers. Um, as the Colombia Avocado Board, we're working with the industry. When we first started, our first priority was to make sure that the importers knew that Colombian avocados were available and when they were available throughout the year. And then now in the last year or two, we're working more closely with retailers and starting to make some headway with food service companies as well.
Hmm.
So it all depends on the funding that you have available, and you have to prioritize where you feel you're going to get your biggest bang for your buck. But right now, we're at a level where we're working more closely with retailers and doing promotions with them. So
Are
But
that's
that
you
our main
ripe?
pers
focus.
Are you ripening in Colombia or
In
in
the US. So
Philadelphia
you
in the
send
US?
the avocados at a point where they're mature enough to finish the ripening process. And
Hmm.
then once they arrive in the US, that's where the ripening takes place.
with the percentages you mentioned going to Philadelphia and Florida primarily, that doesn't leave a lot for Europe, but you mentioned Europe. How much is going to Europe and where in Europe?
So those percentages I shared with you, Edwin, that's based on the fruit that's coming to the US.
Oh,
When
okay,
you look
just the
at
US.
Colombia,
Okay.
exports in
Right.
total. You have about this year, it's about 30% of their total volume is being shipped to the US. So that
Okay.
means about
Oh, wow.
70% is going to Europe.
Wow. And do you ship anything to China, Asia regions at all? Or is that not big?
So Colombia is starting to look at those markets. They have to
Yeah.
go through a process of inspection and certification for phytosanitary purposes for
Yeah.
many of the Asian countries as well.
Right.
So they're going through that process and they've started to ship a few avocados, but the main market continues to be Europe. So
Yeah,
this year, about 70% of their avocados are going there.
that's fascinating. Now, you personally, are you focused just on the US or do you do Europe as well? You do both? All of it?
Yes, no, the Colombia Avocado Board is focused specifically on the US market.
Okay.
Due to the funding that we receive and the USDA oversight, we have to focus and stay
Right.
within the US.
Right. Got it. Do you have another organization that works with Europe or is that not necessary?
Yes, so the association down in Colombia, Corpojas,
Yeah.
they are working with different countries. And then recently, Colombia has started to work more closely with the World Avocado Organization, which also
Oh,
does marketing and promotion in other parts of the world and focuses right now specifically on European markets.
that's interesting. I'd never heard of the World Avocado Association. Have you any of the others, the produce buzzers had heard of them?
I think I have heard of that before.
Yeah, interesting. Well, that's
Yeah.
well, it's a popular fruit. They need it. So that's good. Um,
I wanted to
okay,
ask you
let's
about the market price.
yeah.
Does your market price correlate with the Mexican price? Is it about the same, or is there a difference in your pricing?
That's a great question, Rick. So, up until this season, Colombian fruit usually would receive a bit lower prices than other origins. And the reason for that, because it's still fairly a new industry, some of the buyers felt there was more risk there. But as we move forward and we establish our reputation, we're showing that Colombian avocados have the same quality. And so the prices are more similar the more time we spend in the market.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any Super Bowl ads coming up?
So for the Super Bowl, we don't have any ads per se, but we are working on some promotions with retailers. So we will be in stores. We'll have point of sale materials. And right now we're focused on our campaign, which is called Race by Colombia. And the main focus there is on country of origin and sustainability and having the the buyers and the consumers learn about the specifics of how Colombian avocados are produced. So that's been our main focus this year. And due to our budgets, that's what we're working on right now.
Yeah.
Eventually, as we grow more, we'll start focusing in on special events like the Super Bowl and other holidays throughout the year.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, and Colombia leads in a lot of agricultural, especially we think of coffee first. There's other commodities, but they certainly know how to raise the fruits and vegetables there. So I'm sure we're going to get really good avocados from you here and are already. Well, where can listeners learn more about avocados from Colombia and follow your story? And how can they get them and taste them?
So you can learn more about avocados from Colombia on our website. It's avocadoscolombia.com. We're
Okay.
also on social media. You can find us on Facebook and Pinterest and LinkedIn. And then in stores, as I mentioned, we're going to be doing some promotions here starting the new year and into the spring months. So you'll start to see a lot more of our materials in store. Most of our fruit is on the East Coast, throughout the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, all the way down into the Southeast.
Yeah.
So that's been our main focus. And we invite consumers to try Colombian avocados. When you taste an avocado, it's not just a great tasting avocado, but when you think about all the work that goes into it and
Yeah.
how the local communities are being supported, it's a great story, and you can
Yeah.
be a part of it by working and purchasing Colombian
Yeah, there's
avocados.
more here than just getting a great tasting avocado, which they will. But so listeners, go to your grocery store, tell them that you want to try avocados from Colombia because you heard such great things about them and what the growers there are doing. So that's good. So how about you, Manuel? Do you like avocados?
I love avocados, Edwin.
I figured you
I
must.
have one every day. Every
Yeah,
day of the year, I've been
I
eating
do
an
too.
avocado.
I do too. So how do you like to use them? What's your favorite ways to eat them?
I keep it pretty simple, Edwin. So we always have ripe fruit at home, and you slice them, include them on any dish that we have for lunch or for dinner. But if you cube them, they go great with salads and
Yeah,
even with soups. So that's one of the ways that I
right.
was introduced to avocados through my wife, who's Colombian, is they like to include avocados in their soups. So if you cube
Interesting.
them, they go great in soups, not just salads.
Yeah.
Having a great guacamole, that's awesome
Oh,
too. I
yeah,
really
yeah.
enjoy guacamole.
Yeah. I made some chicken tortilla soup this or
There we
last
go.
week and I froze it. And last night I had a big bowl of it and I did exactly. I cubed up the avocados and put them on top with the tortilla chips on top. Really good.
And I had tuna fish with avocado on top.
There you go. There's not a sandwich that I can think of that
That
couldn't be
won't, yeah.
benefited with it. Maybe peanut butter and jelly. That might be a little weird, but any other sandwich, put me an avocado on it.
Yeah.
You could actually mix that avocado in with peanut butter.
That would work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Cynthia has a great recipe for I don't know if I'm blanking.
Like a chocolate mousse.
Yeah, chocolate mousse, and she uses avocados instead of what? Oils and butter and
Mhm.
that.
It's a combination of the avocado and a baked potato.
Baked
For
sweet
the
potato.
for
Sweet
this,
potato.
yes, with
Sweet
this,
potato.
yeah, you need that
So she's got
that
this
consistency.
right, but it's also the sweet potato replaces the sugar, and the avocado replaces any kind of butter or oil. I think I'm kind of guessing a little bit. She made it. I've got a video of it somewhere I can send you.
It is good. It's one of those things that like I don't do it very often, but that would be a mainstay, I think, to have if you have children, because it's just such an easier way to
A much healthier
give them
way,
a
too.
good dessert. Yeah.
Yeah.
And having that.
Do you have recipes on your website, Manuel?
We do. Yes,
Okay,
we do have recipes on our website.
good. So listeners, check that out. I'm sure they've got some really interesting ones. I wanted these
I've
soup
got
recipes from your wife.
What was that? What was the website again, please?
It's avocadoscolombia.com.
No from, just remember this is
Avocados.
avocados from Colombia, but take out the
Co.
from and then it's .com.
Yes.
Okay, Rick, you had a question or a comment?
Yeah, I was on the website today and I noticed a very interesting avocado dressing. You mix it with lime juice and I think mayonnaise and different things. And it looked like it would be really good. I'm going to try that one as soon as possible.
Great. Okay, now this is a question I probably, it doesn't really matter the order here, but give our listeners a tip on how to select an avocado, how to keep it and ripen it at home and make sure that it doesn't go bad before they can use it.
So with avocados, Edwin, they ripen and they have different stages. The greener they are, the less ripe they are. And the darker
Okay.
they are, the more ripe they are. So
Right.
it just depends when you want to use them. If you want to use an avocado right away, usually it's a stage 3 or stage 4 avocado, which is a dark color avocado.
Right.
And you can tell whether it's ripe in addition to the color of the skin is by gently squeezing it. And if it
Yeah.
gives, it means that it's soft enough to be
Don't
enjoyed.
mash it though, listeners. Just gently press.
Got to be really careful with them. Yeah, you don't want to increase
Yeah.
the shrink at the grocery stores. So a
Now,
lot of times just focus on the color, and that's
yeah.
enough to know.
Right. Right. And so Rick claims to be an avocado whisperer. He said that once on another program. He doesn't even have to squeeze them. He can just pick it up and he knows if it's ripe or not.
I can actually feel in my hand without even mashing it gently. It's just there's just something.
You just hold it, and you're
Yeah.
just one with the avocado,
Yeah.
and you're just like, hmm. And then you shove it in the microwave and irradiate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is probably something you don't want. This is probably something you don't want customers, consumers in the store doing either. But I've heard this is a good sign. Is if that little button on the stem end pops off, it's ready. But you don't want people popping those off in the
Yeah,
store.
exactly. Yeah. Is
I
this
don't
good?
think.
Is this good? This one's good. Oh, good, good, good.
Well, if they pop it off, it's good. Put it in your basket. If it doesn't pop off, put it back on
She
the
might not like
shelf.
the shape, and and then this one's like ready to go tomorrow.
Right. Now, another trick I learned is that once they get to the ripeness that you really like, you can put them in the refrigerator, and they'll hold that ripeness for quite a while. I've kept them actually up to a couple of weeks, 3 weeks even, and they were still good. But what do you recommend there? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
So you have to be careful with that, Edwin, because it's a tropical fruit, the cold does affect it. But once
Okay.
it gets to a certain maturity point, similar to mangoes, you can put it in the cooler and it'll hold longer. But I would not leave them there too long. You
Yeah.
want to enjoy them as soon as possible. But
Right.
yeah, you can put them in and it'll hold for a couple of days.
Yeah, I don't usually let them stay around long. I eat them up. But sometimes if I bought a big bag of them, a bag of them, that's when I have to do that. But you can do that with bananas too, by the way. That's another trick with bananas. The bananas will turn dark or black on the outside, but the fruit inside is pretty much the same ripeness as when you put it in. At least that's been my experience. Don't sue me if it doesn't work for you.
I've held avocados as long as 4 weeks
In the fridge?
Yeah, but I don't trust what they would look like that you would still eat them. I might go like, no, you lost me at week 3, I'm out, and you would still eat it.
They're not bruised. If it's a good, healthy avocado, I've held them for as long as 4 weeks, and they were fine.
Yeah, I think we've gotten close to
I'm
that.
not recommending that. I'm just saying that, like, I had to go. The reason it happened is I had to go out of town, and it was like they were already 2 weeks in there, and then it took me another 2 weeks before I returned.
Yeah.
This avocado lime salad dressing does look really good, but there's also a chocolate bread,
All right.
like a
breads.
pound cake.
Yeah, that
And
sounds good.
it's on page 2.
So it was being mentioned that you can replace butter with avocado and it works great. So yeah, any of the recipes that have butter in them, you can replace it with avocados. During the last year, we've had chocolate truffles at our trade shows, and
Oh,
they've been a huge hit. And the secret there is that we replaced the butter with avocado, and you cannot taste that much the avocado, but just it's a healthier and it stays.
you still got the same texture as you get from
It has
butter.
the same texture.
Yeah.
Correct.
Manuel, I'm very upset with you because I was at your booth just a few weeks ago and you did not give me any truffles. What's
I
up
think we
with
ran
that,
out by the
man?
time you got there, Edwin. We
That's
got there
true.
towards the end
It
of the
was.
trade
It
show,
was
so
towards the end.
they're pretty popular, and we ran out. But we're gonna have to make some and send them to you.
No, don't do that. But I would have loved to try them. But anyway.
Yeah.
Well, we've kept you long enough. I think you've answered most all my questions. There's probably a few here that we could have gotten to, but I'm going to let you go. We'll just have to have you back, and hopefully you'll be willing to come. But before we
Absolutely.
go,
Thank you for the invitation.
do you remember the punishment that we put our guests through? You've
No, I
forgotten.
don't.
He's forgotten.
Poor guy.
We make our guests go through what we call punishment. Here's the deal. Teresa loves puns, and every episode she brings a pun that kind of relates to the episode. And we torture our guests and our listeners with these terrible puns because they're always bad. And we call this segment
Always bad.
home, Grown.
Oh.
And usually these are in the form of a question. So Teresa sets it up with this little story, and then she asks us what the punny answer is, and we try to guess it. So she's the only one that knows the answer. The rest of us try to guess. So put your thinking cap on and get ready to be punished. Teresa, do you have a homegrown for us today?
Yeah, it's pretty bad, but the worse the better. Okay, so there was a chef, and he was invited to a party. And he kind of mulled over, what am I going to bring? What am I going to bring? He had some stuff he made. I thought, okay, I'll make a salsa. I got some avocados. I can throw something together with that. Chips. Okay. So he puts together, a couple of bags of stuff, but he was very religious. And this party was on a Sunday, and he just did not want to skip church. So on the way to church, he goes, he brings the appetizers with him and carries them into the church, and they have the service and everything, and then he comes out and meets up with his friend just outside of church, and they go to the party, and he takes out all of his various appetizers that he's prepared, and the friend says, okay, what's this? And he's telling him what everything is. So he looks and he says, well, that's guacamole. But since it went with me to church, I guess we could say that it's sort of special. So what did he think the guacamole should be called?
I think I know this one. Everybody all at once.
Holy
guacamole.
Well, sorry about that, Manuel.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't remind you of that, or you wouldn't have come on. So it was torture, punishment. Okay. Anyway. Well, anything else you want to tell our listeners about Colombian avocados in the last minute or so here that we missed?
Well, thank you for the invitation, Edwin. It's been great joining you again. And when consumers or buyers think about Colombian avocados, remember they're not just grown, they're raised by Colombia in every sense of the word, by its people, by the landscape, by the geography, by the industry itself. We're very committed to continuing to grow here in the U.S. and maintain high levels of quality. So we're looking forward to continuing that growth. And if anybody ever has any questions, feel free to reach out. We're happy to start a conversation.
Great. That's fantastic. Very inspiring and a great story. So thanks for coming and sharing that with us. We wish you the best. Happy holidays and a Happy New Year. We'll see you somewhere in the next year, I'm sure.
March.
Thank you.
Take care.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you.
Same.
Well, thank you, listeners, for tuning in to the Produce Buzzers podcast, brought to you by Produce Buzz, the gathering place for lovers of fresh fruits and veggies. We hope you were entertained a bit and educated a lot about fresh produce. Be sure to join us next time, and please tell your friends to do so as well. Like, share, and comment on our Produce Buzz Facebook page. And check out our website at www.producebuzz.com. There you will find articles about fresh fruits and veggies, how to select, store, and prepare them, as well as lots of interesting facts about all the wonderful bounty the earth provides for us. Until next time, be fruitful and don't forget to veg out.